This is the third part of the overview to the course. And really, in this part, we are going to talk just briefly about doing library searches. So I had started out on the homepage, and that was the homepage for our Blackboard for our course. And I just clicked on a new tab that has George Mason's website open in it. Some of you might be beyond this, but I just want to go through real briefly as you begin your library scavenger hunts and also your next assignment for Module 3, which will be called the overview of your research. When you start looking for studies, I just want to cover that. Or this part, so you would feel comfortable for those of you who may not be as comfortable with the library. So what I'm doing is I'm just brushing over academics, not even clicking on it, but brushing over with my mouse, and I'm going to university libraries. Once you get to university libraries, scroll down, and I'll tell you they're always, always, always changing this homepage. So it changes where you can access this all the time. But right now I find the easiest way to click on digital library resources. And here it gives you some options for searching. So if you want to do a database search, and one database I recommend is PsycInfo, then you type it in here. So I'll put PsycInfo, and it's your second hit there. And if you click on PsycInfo, it'll ask you to put your MasonNet ID in if you're off campus like I am right now. So your MasonNet ID is the first part of your email. So mine is S34. And then whatever your password is for your email, it's the same for the libraries. And that way you log in and you shouldn't have to pay anything for the services for accessing the articles. I always tell people if it asks you to pay for something to access an article, then contact me because it shouldn't. Usually you just got to log in and log out because for some reason it doesn't have you logged all the way in. Because this should be covered by your student fees. There should not be any cost further for accessing articles. So this is what the interface for PsycInfo looks like. I usually recommend that you put some limitations on your searches. For instance, I often will say if you are doing research, intervention research, limit from 2000 to the present, 2016. For those doing reading interventions, I usually suggest 2005 to 2016 because there's a lot out there, in reading. So you should be able to find a lot of articles. So I usually, for reading only, I would suggest 2005 to 2016. The other thing that I would mention is in terms of the advanced search is if you're not sure what terminology to use, I would recommend using the term finder. For instance, if I was going to do some research on reading disabilities, I would type in reading disability to make sure that is the best terminology to use in this particular database. And as you can see, there's a lot of different things about reading. And let's see, that specific term isn't there. So let me try here, and I'll try learning disability. Okay, and you might notice there's more here on learning disorder. And so I might try using learning disorder in my search versus learning disability. And the reason why you would do this is, let's say you're not getting enough articles. Like when I say not enough, it only turns up maybe 5, 10 on your initial search. A good search will probably generate somewhere between 50 and 100 because you'll have to look through quite a few before you find ones that match your topic specifically as you want. If you're getting thousands, that's too many. You need to get a little bit more specific. So for this database, it seems like learning disorders, that is the terminology they have been using more than learning disability. And most databases do have some kind of term finder or thesaurus to help you with that terminology. The other things I would recommend to help you, and let's see if I can find it here. Again, I would do it by year published. And let's do a search. We'll do a search on, let's do one on mathematics. do mathematics and learning disorder. Oops. And I notice it added anxiety up there. I didn't particularly want that. The other thing besides narrowing with a couple key terms is I would click peer-reviewed journals only, because for this particular class you'll be using studies, which means it can't just be an article like a literature review. It's got to be a study that has an introduction, a method section, results, and then a discussion. And most times, almost always, for it study to be published, it has to be reviewed by experts out in the field or peers. So feel safe to check peer-reviewed journals. Now, sometimes, depending on what you're doing, you'd want to check impact statement or open access. Some databases will give you the option to select full text only. I would not do that unless you're getting just a million articles, because if you check full text only in some databases, that will really limit what you find. And for this database, you can click search, and it'll give us a listing of what articles are found, what abstracts. It'll give abstracts for all the articles found. So if we click on here, it will give us some basic information on the article. So you get the abstract, and it tells us where to access the full record. And usually what I recommend is to look on the side how you could quickly link on it and take a look at the full article. And here you can do it through Mason Link or the full text from the publisher. Sometimes it'll be a PDF, but if you read the abstract and you're really interested, I definitely recommend then clicking on the full article and taking a closer look. So this is just one database. So if I were to back out of it, just so you guys can see, I'm going back to where we started searching. We're going back to databases. Let's say, and for ERIC, I'm just going to use ERIC as an example. Some professors don't allow you to use ERIC, but I do let you use ERIC as long as you're not using any ERIC digests. So you have to actually have a full research study. And I just want to show you what the ERIC interface looks like. A little bit different. Notice it still has a thesaurus. Notice here you can also choose other databases other than ERIC to search at the same time. So you can click on any of these. Obviously, you wouldn't want to click on legal collection if it's not pertinent to your topic, but any of these that are pertinent to your topic, and it will search all of these databases, not just ERIC. And then you can also, again, put in your search terms. Here it does let you click on full text, but like I said, don't do that unless you really have too many articles. And it's just a different interface for clicking on peer reviewed, and then the date published looks a little bit different. But same thing, you put in your date published, your peer reviewed, and then search, and it will turn up your articles with abstracts. Now that being said, that's how you do a database search, okay? So when I'm going this way, it says article and databases, okay? So if I go back to where I started, the database search, you'll notice there's also an eJournal Finder, because in your searches, actually it'll ask you to do three things in your method section. It will ask you to do an ancestry search, which means if you find a great article, look in its reference list. Any pertinent article that you take from a reference list of an article that you found, that would be an ancestry search, okay? Because it's one of the ancestor or previous articles to that one. If you search in something like PsycInfo that we were just in, you can do, and you can't do in all databases, but let's do PsycInfo. We'll go there just for a second because I forgot to show you this one piece. Let's say I'm going to go back and I'm going to do again mathematics and learning disorder. And this time I'm not limiting because it's not pertinent to my search. But let's say here I click on this. Now this looks like a good article, my first one again. When you click on it, it'll tell you a lot of information about that article. Okay, and there should be an option. I'm not seeing it there. Let me see. You have to click on the full text here. There should be an an item where it tells you how many times articles have cited it. Okay, and you'll notice in this one, 0 articles have cited this particular article. So that would be a descendant search. If there were articles here, that would be a descendant search, which means articles that have come after this particular article or study that have referenced it. So let's see if we can find one. Let's see. We'll go here. Let's see if we can find if this one was cited. Because I want to show you what it looks like when an article has cited it. All right, well, I seem to be striking out here. Let's see if I can go to the next one. It usually will tell you how many people or how many articles have cited your particular article. Um, you know, for some reason, you'll notice there's 0 for this one as well. But I don't want to waste too much of your time, but for some reason it is cited a number of times by other articles. You can click on it over here and it will help you find those articles because sometimes they are valuable. They are valuable articles that have cited your particular target article. Okay, so that's a descendant search. The other thing you want to know about, and this is what I was about to go on to in terms of the eJournals. So if you back out of the databases and you go to eJournal Finder, there's one thing you have to do for the method section called a hand search. And back in the old days, we used to have to go to the library and do an actual hand search. But now you can pick out a journal, such as Journal of Learning Disabilities. You want to pick one that's most pertinent to your particular topic. So here I've picked Journal of Learning Disabilities. And let's see what it comes up with. Ooh, and I think I just put Journal of Learning Disabilities, so it didn't come up. Okay, so there's several sources of Journal of Learning Disabilities. So I probably want to pick the one with the greatest span of time. So this one, it's perfect, 1999 to the present. And what you would do is when you go through this way and you go through eJournals, it will take a journal and you will be able to pull up one issue after the other. So instead of flipping through it by hand, you can flip through it digitally. Okay, so you can look at the current issue and then you can go back and look at all the previous issues and you can just kind of troll through it. I usually recommend looking at the different issues and looking at the table of contents. So if you look back at July, August, you would look back at the table of contents and say, is there any articles in the table of contents? You see it gives you the full article and then, or the article title, the abstract, you could read that, and then the full text. So you look at each of these and you say, is this something, any of these articles something I'm interested in? And it's very quick to do because that covers one issue. You can go back and then you can look through another issue, the May, June issue, and keep going. Usually when you do a hand search, you do a hand search for somewhere between 5 to 10 years. Okay, like I mentioned, that's just a brief overview of searching. If you need more resources or help, you want to go back to our homepage and click on Library Resources. Ann Driscoll is the educational librarian. She is super helpful in doing searches, as well as has a lot of helpful videos, as I mentioned earlier in part 2, in terms of doing the most effective searching you can with the time you have. If you again want to virtual chat the librarians, check the hours before you start chatting them, but there you will often find that librarians are able to answer some real basic questions that you might have while you're researching. All right, this is the end of part 3, and I promise the last video for this week. Thanks.